the fussy bivalve, also known as the soda sea creature. When they themselves are removed from water. Number 2. This bowl of soup is 45 years old and is served in a family-run restaurant in Bangkok. The soup is called Nua Tuna, and when it runs low, they just add more ingredients, but it is suggested tourists do not eat this, due to their own sensitive stomachs and many deaths. And number 1. This is Ukraine's president in 2004, Viktor Yushchenko, until Russia disagreed with his leadership and continuously poisoned him, which he lived through, but he did develop these terrible skin scars as a result. And for these facts, I hope they were so unbelievable you didn't actually believe them, because they're all lies. The fussy bivalve was just a scene from an old Japanese movie. The bowl of soup was actually cleaned every day, and the last one, well, that one was actually true. But in a time where getting the right information to the right people is critical, it's important to be sure you're viewing from a valid source. And no, your Aunt Jessica's post on Boomerbook most certainly does not count as a valid source.
Creepy facts you never knew existed. 10. There's a hidden, creepy secret about Cinderella's stepsisters. They cut off some of their feet, just to fit in the glass slipper.
I asked Google about the mysterious staircases in the woods, which, according to Jesse V's recent video, are gateways to hell. And I know where to find one. Stories say that the stairs are only found deep within the woods, often being associated with sinister activity for those who climb them.
The video specifically says do not climb them, but come on, I mean...
After arriving and a bit of searching,
we found it.
I found them again, daring myself to go up. With each step, I felt more and more uneasy, but after making it to the top,
Made it!
my cameraman spotted something unusual.
Yo, what is this?
Like for a part 2.
Have you heard the creepy whispering in the change rooms at Target? So here are some more really creepy Target stories that are told from employees. There was an employee that was about to check all the change rooms before Target closed just to make sure that everyone was gone. But as soon as she walked into these fitting rooms, she got this really strange vibe. You know when you can just sort of sense that somebody is close by? Kind of like you just know when someone's watching you? Well, she just did not feel alone. So she called out, "Hello, we're closing now," and there was silence. So she started slowly opening the change room doors, and just as she was approaching the very last one, she heard this really weird sound. It was this muffled whispering coming from behind the door. She wasn't able to make out what it was saying, but as she approached it, she put her ear against the door to figure out what they were saying. But as soon as she did that, the whispering stopped. So she said, "Hello?" She began knocking, but there was no sound, there was no reply. And when she tried to open the door, it was locked. So she knelt down to peer under the door, and to her surprise, she saw dirty, wet, bare feet. This person wasn't wearing any shoes, so she freaked out and ran to get another employee. But when they got back to the change rooms, that very last door was open, and all that was left was this puddle on the floor. So I heard about this story, and it was really scary. And lastly, I have a story about the baby aisle. It's about this woman who was walking through the baby section holding a tumbler of iced tea in her hands with the lid tightly fastened. Well, as she was walking down this aisle, she suddenly felt this tug on her hair, and before she even had a second to react, the top of her cup just popped off and the ice flew out and spilled all over the floor. She ran and told the employees, but no one believed her. They thought that she just accidentally spilled it, but she was convinced that something in that aisle literally made her cup explode. Later that night, the night shift employee was looking through the security footage from the day, and he saw what happened to her, and from that day forward, the employees were afraid of the baby section.
This video shows Caleb Brown chained up in the slave storage container of Todd Kohlhepp, the Amazon review killer. Between 2003 and 2016, he murdered at least 7 people in South Carolina, dropping several clues along the way. He left several reviews on Amazon products that he used in the killings, like this one that reads, "Keep in your car when you have to hide the bodies and left the full-size shovel at home." In 2016, Kayla and her boyfriend Charles went missing after they went to clean Todd's residence. No one heard from them for months until a post was made to Charles' Facebook page saying that he and Kayla were expecting a baby. Shortly after, an old photo of the couple was posted with the caption, "We are fine." This raised suspicions, leading police to trace these posts to a storage unit on Todd's property. There they freed Kayla and took Todd into custody, where he bragged about burying several bodies on the property as well, including Kayla's boyfriend. He was given 7 life sentences, 1 for each of his murders, despite him confessing to many, many more.
Agent Orange deformities, an extremely effective herbicide was dropped all over the country of Vietnam during the war by the US military. From 1962 to 1971, over 19 million gallons of herbicide was dropped, nicknamed by the orange stripe going across the 55-gallon drums. It wasn't a herbicide, but a concoction of herbicides, ones that contain dioxins, which are extremely persistent pollutants, and most importantly, highly toxic to humans. Dioxins cause immune system damage, interfere with hormones, cause cancer, and oh yeah, cause some pretty extreme physical deformities, along with developmental problems. The most common second-generation effect from the poison are neural tube defects, which are neurological disorders caused by malformations of the spinal cord, but also comes with an impossible to count number of deformities, like fish skin and being born with no eyes. The US dropped the millions of gallons over the packed Vietnam force, causing 4 million people to suffer due to exposure, and ended up with over 500,000 babies born with birth defects. Lingering Agent Orange was potent enough to kill 400,000 US soldiers. The Vietnam War is known as the war that lingers, and there's no telling on when the effects of Agent Orange will fully disappear from humankind.
Creepy abandoned places. 2. Kolmanskop, Namibia. Miranda Castle in cells.
When Disney employees dies while in their suit at Disney World, another employee must sit them on a bench, so it looks like they're just sitting down until closing time. So all those pictures of happy children sitting next to Disney characters, there's a chance the person in the suit is dead.
Daisy, give me your answer, do. I'm half crazy, all for the love of you.
Look at this creepy video off the internet.
Normal looking photos with disturbing backstories. This photo is of 3 young Navy sailors enjoying a night out at a restaurant. The men all seem to be happy as they're laughing, smiling, and enjoying their drinks. But there's a very dark and tragic story behind this image. This photo was taken on the night of December 6, 1941 in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. This is 21-year-old Clifford Olds. On the morning of December 7th, Clifford was working on the USS West Virginia battleship. Later that morning, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor and claimed the lives of over 2,000 American soldiers. Clifford's ship was hit bad and it began to sink. And as he tried to escape, another sailor accidentally shut and locked Clifford inside of a room. Clifford, along with 2 other men, 18-year-old Ronald Endicott and 21-year-old Buddy Preston, were sealed inside of the room. They were trapped and their ship was sinking fast. Just hours later, the USS West Virginia sank to the bottom of the harbor with the 3 men trapped inside. Luckily, the room they were in contained a lot of emergency food and water. But what the 3 sailors didn't know is that due to how deep their ship had sank, there was absolutely no way for their fellow soldiers to save them. The next day, several soldiers reported hearing the sound of clanging metal coming from underwater where the USS Virginia had sank. The banging came in patterns, and it became apparent that somebody was trapped underwater banging against the ship for help. And yes, those noises came from Clifford and the 2 other young soldiers. In the coming days, many soldiers were ordered to stand guard on the docks and keep watch over the harbor. But periodically, many of them could hear the banging still coming from underneath the water. The 3 young sailors kept banging the side of the ship from underneath the water in a desperate call for help. But tragically, the soldiers on land couldn't do anything but listen to their calls. Diving that deep underwater and cutting the ship open to help them would kill them instantly due to the pressure, which meant that the 3 men were going to die. 16 days had passed and the banging from underwater had finally stopped. 6 months later, the USS West Virginia was finally able to be brought up from underwater. Clifford Olds, Buddy Preston, and Ronald Endicott were found sealed shut in that same room. On the wall was a calendar where they counted out the days that they were trapped underwater. They made it to day 16 before their air finally ran out. The parents of the 3 young men never knew the truth as to how their sons died, as
to bid a two. Said you'd never love anew. I wondered if I could hold it.
Insanely dark facts and things that have happened at Disney World. When Disney had first opened way back in the 70s, Walt Disney had originally hired spies. He would station them around the park so they could eavesdrop on the guests and get a feel for how they actually liked the experience. It's pretty much common knowledge that Disney does have an underground tunnel system, but did you know that that system runs a full 9 acres under the park, and people have actually gotten lost down there? Roughly 10 or so years ago, there was an incident that was reported near Space Mountain when a guest tried to sneak on a duffel bag. When employees found out and they asked to search it, they found inside a 6-month-old baby. Why this parent was trying to sneak a baby onto a roller coaster, we do not know. In a lesser-known incident that Disney actually covered up pretty well, in 2004, a 38-year-old cast member who was playing Pluto was run over by the Beauty and the Beast float during the opening parade. Although clearly deceased at the scene, Disney refused to declare the death until the body was brought outside of the park.
Gruesome Facts You Didn't Know, Part 56. Charles II of Spain is the result of nearly 200 years of inbreeding meant to maintain the royal bloodline. He was completely illiterate, had difficulty eating, and could barely speak. Their family was also quite known for their protruding bottom jaw, known as the Habsburg jaw. This photo from the 1870s is a massive pile of bison skulls to be ground up into fertilizer. In 2013, 2 vintage cars were pulled from Foss Lake, Oklahoma, containing 6 skeletons. The remains that were found belonged to people who disappeared in the 60s and 70s. All 6 died from drowning and their deaths were ruled as accidental.
Did you know that in North Korea you can only visit 28 websites? The North Korean intranet, called Kwangmyong or Bright, is free to access if you have a computer. Unfortunately, computers are incredibly expensive and you need to request permission from the government to access one. There are also only 3 TV channels.
Stop and wait a sec. When you look at me like that, my darling, what did you expect?
Let's talk about level 974 of the Backrooms. Let's call this level Mr. Kitty's house. This whole level has an adorable pastel pink aesthetic, just like this. Here's where the level gets weird. This guy right here. This tall, dark entity is named Mr. Kitty, and he is completely harmless. Mr. Kitty simply pops up around the house and watches you while you explore. He's extremely tall and has these long, lanky limbs. I just wouldn't want to stay in this level too long.
Unsettling video found on the internet. Press the plus for more of the macabre.
Gone as I planned. When you had to bid a two. Said you'd never love anew. I wondered if I could hold.
Are you familiar with this photo? I have to admit, I make these every day and this story freaked me out. That guy right there, his name is Christopher Porco, and he murdered his father in 2006 in Bethlehem, New York. Also in the photo is his mother, who he also tried to murder. She survived, but her face was left disfigured. Now this is where it gets crazy. On the day of the murder, Christopher Porco struck his father 16 times with an axe. He suffered huge brain injury and was just in profound shock. So much that he went about his day as normal. He got up, went to the bathroom, went downstairs to the kitchen, loaded the dishwasher, and then actually signed some checks that were like parking tickets for his son. What a nice dad. And then actually went outside, got the paper, and this is crazy. He locked himself out and he had enough of a brain left to be able to get the key under the mat, unlock the door, and then walk inside before falling over dead.
Worst phobia to have. Trypophobia, fear of clusters of small holes, bumps, or patterns.
Disturbing facts that will ruin your day, Part 13. There is no physical evidence to say that today is Sunday, we all just have to trust that someone has kept count since the first one ever. This is 5-year-old Peruvian Lina Medina, known as the youngest confirmed mother in history. In 1930s London, parents used to hang their babies in cages outside their windows. People's general happiness peaks at 21, and doesn't reach that level again until they retire.
Creepy facts you never knew existed. 4. A Russian farmer collapsed during a seizure feeding her pigs. The next day, husband found her remains. It was found out that she died due to blood loss. After the pigs bit her face, ears, and shoulders. Pigs will eat a human body, including bones, and leaving teeth behind.
Disturbing moments caught on live TV. In this 2007 live footage, the Czech television's program, Panorama, is showing viewers a beautiful shot of the mountains. Suddenly, the initial tranquility is ruined by a blinding white light and the unmistakable sight of a mushroom cloud. The bombing was quickly and fortunately revealed as a hoax, masterminded by a guerrilla art prankster, who had apparently hacked the show's live camera feed, overwriting the footage with a CGI previously rendered.